In the middle of the 19th century, one of humanity's deadliest enemies was malaria. Millions suffered across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and the only known cure, quinine, derived from the bark of the cinchona tree, was scarce and expensive. An ounce of it cost more than a week's wages. In 1856, William Henry Perkin and one 8-year-old chemistry student in London thought he could solve this. Working in his home laboratory, he set out to synthesize quinine from coal tar derivatives. What he got instead was a mess, a dark, sticky sludge at the bottom of his flask. Most would have scraped it away and forgotten about it. But Perkin noticed something strange. When he washed the residue with alcohol, the liquid turned a vivid purple. Even more remarkable, when applied to silk, the color held fast. It didn't wash out, it didn't fade in sunlight. This was the world's first synthetic dye, mauveine. What made this accident extraordinary was chemistry itself. Mauveine contained aromatic rings and extended conjugated pi systems, molecular structures that absorb certain wavelengths of light and reflect back a brilliant violet. More importantly, its structure allowed it to bond tightly to natural fibers like silk and cotton, a property natural dyes had always struggled with. Almost overnight, purple, once the rarest and most expensive of colors reserved for royalty, became available to the masses. Victorian fashion embraced it in a frenzy that came to be called mauve mania. Newspapers marveled, entrepreneurs rushed to invest, and suddenly coal tar waste, the foul byproduct of gas lighting and steel production, had become a gold mine. This moment was more than a fashion revolution. It was the birth of the synthetic chemical industry. Chemists quickly realized that if one compound could give rise to a stable, brilliant color, countless others could as well. Laboratories across Europe raced to extract new molecules from coal tar. Aniline yellow, fuchsine red, methylene blue, color was only the beginning. From aniline came phenol, and from phenol came one of the first synthetic plastics, bakelite. By reacting phenol with formaldehyde, chemists created a hard, heat-resistant polymer that could be molded into electrical insulators, telephones, radios, and kitchenware. Entire industries were built on this chain of discovery, all tracing back to Perkin's purple accident. Another branch of the same chemical family changed medicine. Dyes like methylene blue weren't just colorful, they had biological activity. Paul Ehrlich, working in the early 20th century, noticed that certain dyes stained bacteria but left human cells relatively untouched. He realized that chemical structure could be tuned to selectively attack microbes, his magic bullet theory. This line of thinking led directly to the first generation of synthetic antibiotics, sulfa drugs. The key was the azo-bond nitrogen double bonds that mimic molecules bacteria need to survive. When bacteria tried to metabolize them, their growth was disrupted. By the 1932nd, sulfonamide antibiotics were saving lives from streptococcal infections, pneumonia, and meningitis decades before penicillin became widely available. The ripple effects of Perkin's accident reached far beyond fashion or medicine. The synthetic dye industry laid the foundation for the modern pharmaceutical industry, plastics, explosives, and agricultural chemicals. Germany in particular built a chemical empire, BASF, Bayer, Hooks, that dominated the world market by the early 20th century. Synthetic chemistry became not just a driver of industry, but also of geopolitics, fueling both economic growth and warfare. But this progress carried a cost. The same coal tar chemistry that gave us dyes, plastics, and antibiotics also gave us industrial pollution, toxic runoff, and chemical warfare agents. Sulfur drugs, once miraculous, soon met bacterial resistance. Plastics, once hailed as indestructible, became a global waste crisis. The very strengths that made these materials revolutionary, durability, stability, biological activity, became their greatest liabilities. Looking back, it's striking to realize how much turned on one failed experiment. Perkin did not cure malaria. Instead, he stumbled onto something arguably more transformative, a way of turning waste into wonder, accident into industry. His purple sludge unlocked a new way of seeing matter itself, not just as something to be observed, but as something to be built, reshaped, and harnessed. The world today, from the colors of our clothes to the plastics in our homes to the medicines in our cabinets, still carries the imprint of that accident in 1856. What began as a failed attempt to mimic nature became the blueprint for surpassing it. It all started with a stain that refused to wash out.